Coming up, the governor of Puerto Rico is under fire this morning following the release of private communications by a watchdog organization. And with the recent earthquakes in California, the New Madrid fault line is getting some attention. We talk with an expert to hear what he has to say about the potential for quakes in our region. And thousands of people are cleaning up and dealing with the ongoing flooding in the aftermath of what was once Hurricane Barry.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. Today is Monday, July 15th. The time is about 6:31. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. And things are a little bit back and forth this morning. We're seeing some fog in some areas. We're seeing some clouds in some areas, but some areas seeing some nice conditions already this morning. Let's take a look outside the WYMT studios here at 6:30, and you can see a little bit of sunshine trying to peek those clouds off in the distance. Also a little bit of fog. So again, hopefully we'll see those clouds clear out and maybe some more sunshine, but you see the fog down to the south of us there, and here in Hazard anyway. Harlan seeing 2 miles of visibility, Jonesville 1 mile, less than a mile down there in Jacksboro, and just a little more a mile than over toward Williamsburg. So just be careful. Clouds back and forth. That's the leading edge of what we'll see later this week. That is what was once Hurricane Barry. So we're going to continue to watch that move in our general direction. Temperatures in the 60s and 70s to start your day. Your planner, we're going to see those temperatures climb. If we get the clouds cleared out of here, those mid 80s could be turning into upper 80s for daytime highs later on this afternoon. Connor?
All right, thanks, Brandon. A wide-scale federal immigration crackdown did not materialize as expected over the weekend, but it may have gotten underway in a less conspicuous manner. Laura Podesta reports from New York.
The nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration promised by the White House did not begin as expected this weekend.
They're going to take people out and they're going to bring them back to their countries, or they're going to take criminals out, put them in prison, or put them in prison in the countries they came from.
But there have been few reports of unusual activity by immigration agents. That could soon change. The New York Times says instead of one massive simultaneous sweep, the ICE operation is being carried out as a series of smaller raids, spread out over several days. The acting head of Customs and Border Protection said his agency is just doing its job.
The individuals that ICE goes after, and they do this every single day, are not individuals that are here undocumented. They're individuals that are here illegally.
Many Democrats have criticized the Trump administration's handling of the situation.
There are a lot of families in our country that are mixed or blended families, where in that household there are documented immigrants, there are undocumented immigrants, there are people who have visas, and they're living in abject fear.
About 2,000 people are believed to be targeted by the raids. The White House says each has been issued a final order of removal from an immigration judge. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
The ICE operations were expected to occur in at least 10 cities. Officials in a number of those communities limited immigration agencies access to local police databases and took other measures to shield migrants from federal raids. The White House was on lockdown for part of the weekend. It happened Saturday after a suspicious package was found on a nearby sidewalk on Pennsylvania Avenue. Security officials closed the sidewalk in Lafayette Park. President Trump was reportedly not at the White House during the incident, but at the Trump International Golf Course in Sterling, Virginia. The U.S. Army is now identifying a soldier who died in Afghanistan. The military says Sergeant Major James G. Ryan Sartor was killed Saturday during a combat operation. Ryan was a Special Forces Company Sergeant Major from Teague, Texas. The commander of the 10th SFG said Ryan was a beloved warrior who epitomized the quiet professionalism, and that he led his soldiers from the front, and his presence will be terribly missed. Ryan's awards include the Purple Heart Medal and Bronze Star Medal. And protests continued in San Juan, Puerto Rico on Sunday after communications between Governor Ricky Rossello and his staff were leaked by a watchdog organization. The communications included sexist jokes that made mockery of journalists as well as political opponents. Protesters are calling for his resignation. Several of Rossello's staff have resigned, but the governor says he will not. And some scuffles broke out in Hong Kong as tens of thousands protested the government's handling of a controversial extradition bill that they want formally withdrawn. Some demonstrators threw objects at police, injuring more than a dozen. But for the most part, the demonstrations were peaceful. The protests reflect mounting complaints that Hong Kong's leaders are eroding the freedom and autonomy promised when the territory was returned to China in 1997. Islamic extremists blew up a gate of a Somali hotel with a car bomb and took over the building for more than 14 hours, leaving 26 people dead before Somali forces who besieged the hotel overnight killed the attackers. The included a prominent Canadian Somali journalist. At least 4 al-Shabaab assailants attacked the Asay Hotel Friday evening, beginning with a suicide car bomb at the entrance gate. And Barry has now been downgraded from a tropical storm to a tropical depression. It continued to weaken Sunday in New Orleans, appears to have missed the brunt of the heavy rains. The storm dumped on other parts of Louisiana and the Gulf states this weekend. The National Weather Service says Barry still brings with it potentially life-threatening rains. CBS News correspondent Hillary Lane has more from New Orleans, where many are breathing a sigh of relief.
We absolutely made it through the storm.
With Barry, the Big Easy had it relatively easy.
Beyond lucky, we were spared. It seemed as those bands moved closer to New Orleans, it seemed to just go around us.
New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell held what she said would be her final news conference about the storm, which put the city, Louisiana, and other Gulf states on alert for days. Rain fell in New Orleans Sunday as Barry continued to weaken from its brief time as a Category 1 hurricane on Saturday. For the Gulf states, there are still concerns about flooding, potential tornadoes, and power outages.
The tropical storm threat, as you know, is over, but rain remains the possibility.
Even though New Orleans is still under a flood watch, engineers have opened up the floodgates behind me. It was constructed after Hurricane Katrina to prevent widespread flooding. And these women who were in town for a sorority convention say it all worked out after their conference was cut 2.5 days short.
God has blessed us. He's given us life, kept us safe, healthy, and together, and we're enjoying that.
Forecasters downgraded rainfall estimates for New Orleans through the day to between 2 to 4 inches, far below earlier predictions. Another sign of a return to normal, flights at the New Orleans airport resumed on Sunday. Hillary Lane, CBS News, New Orleans.
The National Hurricane Center says the tropical depression is moving toward the north near 9 miles an hour. You could be seeing higher gas prices thanks to Tropical Storm Barry. Rising oil prices have been causing the national average price of gas to increase in recent weeks, but the storm could cause some of the country's major gasoline refineries to shut down and drive prices even higher. There could also be supply problems. Overwhelming rain could also cause some refinery outages and constrict fuel supplies along the Gulf Coast. A magnitude 6.5 earthquake caused minor damage in communities along Western Australia's northwest coast on Sunday. The quake's epicenter was about 124 miles from the coast. People felt the ground shake for 15 to 20 seconds. No damage or injuries were reported, and a tsunami warning was not issued. From California to Washington to right here, earthquakes continue to shake their way into our lives. We've heard a lot about a possible big quake along the New Madrid seismic zone, but should we be too concerned? Our Jathan Lindsay tells us how some scientists say no.
Almost straight north.
Dr. Mike May, a professor of geography at Western Kentucky University, shows me exactly where a recent earthquake shook California.
It's basically an eastern zone of faults kind of toward the Central Valley, and it could be felt over a much larger area because it was beyond the San Andreas.
But like all earthquakes, this one could not be predicted.
The bottom line is that there's too many variables.
With sometimes daily earthquakes, should those of us living along the New Madrid seismic zone be concerned?
We're not a ticking time bomb. I think that we have several things we can rely on, and that is that we know that there have been large quakes on the New Madrid. There has not been anything like that since 1811, 1812.
I'm roughly 2 hours north and east of the New Madrid seismic zone here in Harrisburg, Illinois, where scientists say cities like this one in the Wabash Valley seismic zone should be more concerned about preparedness.
That's the one that has had 4 or 5 moderate quakes for our region, like say 4s and 5s on the Richter scale.
And it turns out it's not just about where you are, but what you are on.
So the risk as far as you're feeling it, even if it's the same magnitude, some people living on one type of sediment or dirt or soil will feel it differently than other people.
For now, we're standing on steady ground, but that could change at any time. Along the Wabash Valley seismic zone in southern Illinois, I'm Jason Lindsay.
If an earthquake happens, you are encouraged to drop cover and hold on. Drop where you are onto your hands and knees. Cover your head and neck with your arms and hold on to a sturdy table or desk. Now let's check in with Brandon for a look at your forecast.
Well, the forecast this morning looking pretty good in some locations. Starting to see some blue skies over Stonecrest Golf Course in Prestonsburg. So hopefully that's going to be the trend of the day, and we'll see those rain chances later. But some folks are going to be dealing with the clouds as we head out the door this morning. Low visibility from Harlan all the way through Williamsburg down into East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia. So just be careful there as you head out the door this morning. Temperatures in the upper 60s and close to 70 or above. We've had that same trend all morning long from 66 there in Wise to 72 Prestonsburg across the state and region. 70 Tri-Cities, 68 Cincinnati, 72 Paducah, so we're going from one end to the other. 71 Lexington, 77 in Louisville, and 70 in Charleston, West Virginia. If you're heading out the door soon, the out the door forecast features rain chances later in the day, the heat of the afternoon, and we'll see temperatures get up to right around 86. Unless we see more sun than clouds, then it could be a little bit warmer than that. Connor?
All right, thanks, Brandon. We will have stories trending on WYMT.com next. Thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. Changes coming to the CBS Evening News. We'll have more straight ahead.